to COVID. So I'm going to introduce myself. So I'm Erika Nelson. I'm a counselor, an author, an entrepreneur, and an educator. And, excuse me, those are my credentials, but what really makes me qualified to stand up here and relate to you guys is that I am also a narcissistic abuse survivor. A number of years ago, I was in a relationship, and I just knew that something wasn't working right, and it drained me of everything I had in me. And I knew if I didn't get out, it was not going to be good. And I had a child who was involved, and it was affecting him, and so I got out. And I had the thought that, okay, once I get out, it's going to be better. You know how that is. You break up with somebody, and you get back in your own space, you get back in your own life, and you just keep going. You finally gain some momentum when you were stopped, when you were with the narcissist. Unfortunately, it didn't work that way. It didn't get better. I see some of you shaking your heads. It got worse. And so I sought out a counselor. And guys, if you didn't know, if you were in a narcissistic relationship and you didn't know, don't feel bad. I have I have 2 bachelor's degrees, I have a master's degree, and I was a counselor at the time. And I sat in my counselor's office, and she said the words narcissistic abuse, and I was like, what? Of course, I think we talked about it a bit in school, but I didn't know really what it was. I just knew it wasn't good. So that day I went home, and I started to research. I got on Google, and I researched survivor sites that had been through it. I researched other professionals' sites that offered education. I felt set free. I felt like there were finally words for what I had been through. I was not crazy. I was not the problem. I felt validated and confirmed, and it was wonderful to know. Now, I still got tangled up again. I still ended up going back to try again for a few months. And it was beautiful because during that time, I don't recommend it, but it can be a very common part of healing. But during that time, I got to use my voice. I got to tell him, if you do that again, here's what I'm gonna do. Needless to say, I was not very attractive to him anymore, and luckily we just parted ways, and it still was, horribly hard after that, but I was out, and I was able to start a new life and keep going. So, during that time, after I realized what I had been through, I made a vow to write a book. I sat in my living room, and I just wrote down all these different topics and things, and then I had to put it away again because I still had a whole lot of healing to do before I was ready to write a book. But I knew right then that I would write a book so that other people that are going through this don't feel so alone. I got out of that experience. I didn't know other people go through this kind of thing. I thought it was just a weird thing. You don't have words for it because you don't have words for anything. You're so shut down. So that's why Brave Love 365 is sitting over there right now, and it's my prayer that it helps so many people, because writing it was transformational for me, so I hope that reading it is as well for those who need it. I wrote that book in 9 months, and it's significant because it was kind of like giving birth. Some days more painful than others, but all right, so narcissistic abuse. Let's just kind of start with the definition, just in case there's some of you out there that aren't quite sure. So it's a destructive, my words here. It's a dangerous, destructive type of emotional and mental abuse. It can include physical abuse. There are people that don't make it out of narcissistic abuse alive. Like it can be really that serious, whether that is through physical abuse, whether that is through somebody not being able to handle the pressure of it and taking their own life. That has happened. So I'm going to try to bring some levity into this tonight, but this is a very serious topic. So when we're victims of narcissistic abuse, we're being fed bullshit, excuse my language, but it's not true. So, and if this brings up anything for any of you, I just want you to know that this is a safe place. Whatever you need to do, we're all we're all here together, so do what you need to do. So narcissism has become sort of a buzzword. He's such a narcissist. Did you hear what he said? Or she's such a narcissist. She's always looking in the mirror. And, it's good in a way because there's more of a focus on narcissism. There's more of an awareness of it. But it can be very invalidating for us survivors of narcissistic abuse to hear it be used that way, because we know it isn't just somebody looking in the mirror a lot, and it isn't just somebody, thinking of themselves too much. It's a whole lot more than that. So, are we all a little narcissistic? Okay, that's a debate that some people, there's different camps on this one. Some people think, we're all a little bit narcissistic, right? We think of ourselves when we shouldn't sometimes. Then there's the other camp that says, no, narcissist traits, we don't all have that because we don't destroy other people. So whatever camp you're in, it's okay. It's right, And that's the thing about this book. Whatever you need to do with this book, it's right. It's your experience in this book. As survivors, so many times we're told what to do, how to do it, what's right, what's wrong. No, that book is your space to be who you are, and it's a safe space for that to come out. All right, narcissists. Is there a cure for narcissistic abuse? How many of us prayed the narcissist would go to therapy? Because they presented themselves as everything to us. They're very in tune to what we need, to our wounds, to what would make us whole, and they are very good actors. They present themselves as all those things. So all of those parts inside of us, those little children inside of us, any part of us will cling tight to what they present themselves as being. So we don't want to let that go. So we hope and we pray. The truth is, okay, there's no cure for narcissism. And, there's a spectrum of narcissistic traits. So somebody might be just really focused on themselves to the detriment of those around them, but it's just one trait. Somebody might be all the way on the other end of the spectrum and be diagnosable as a narcissistic personality disorder. But one trait is enough to destroy a person. So don't underestimate if it's just one trait, In terms of, most narcissists will not ever get diagnosed or go for help because there's nothing wrong with them. They project it out onto everybody else. It's not them. The ones that do, about 50 to 75% of them are male, and we're not going to bash males or anything because there's only one in here. But we're not bashing anybody, not narcissists, not anybody. So, but sometimes narcissists will go to a counselor. Sometimes they're court ordered. Sometimes they'll go to try to prove to us that they are not a narcissist. However, narcissistic personality disorder is a relational thing. You can't diagnose it by talking to one person. And there are many therapists out there that don't know that. And that's where the narcissist can manipulate and get the therapist to be against us and things like that. So, are they going to change? Is there any possible way we can stay with them? Probably not. As I started to get healthier, I said to myself, okay, if my ex goes to therapy for 2 years and is working his tail off, maybe I'll consider it then, maybe. But of course that never happened. So, and unfortunately it really just doesn't. Here's some important thoughts. Okay, we learn about narcissistic abuse. I don't know, I wanted to anyway. I wanted to go home and clobber the narcissist with this information. I kind of did, actually. And it didn't work out well. It doesn't work out well. We can't clobber the narcissist. We will never win. They think differently than we do, and it will come back on us in ways that we wouldn't ever have imagined. The other thing to remember is if you are in court, let's say you're fighting for custody of your children, or maybe you sold a business, or you have a business with a narcissist and you're trying to dissolve that. It's wise never to use the word narcissist in court, because you're not an expert. Even a counselor has to be very careful with that, but that could come back on you. You want to talk about the behaviors, not the person. That is enough of an indication of what's going on, No contact. Now this is especially in intimate partner narcissistic abuse. Painfully, horribly, no contact is a non-negotiable part of our healing. It's the hardest thing we might ever do. Well, I don't know about that, but it's really hard to go no contact with a narcissist. Now, some of us, I might have done this too, try to negotiate with ourselves a little. Well, I won't block his phone, but I won't answer it if it rings. Okay, that's called, what is that called? No contact, no response. That's called no response. We are still engaged with the narcissist energetically. There's a weird energetic thing that happens. They can siphon our energy off of us. We don't even have to be in the same state as them. The minute we tune in as an energy being, tune into them, their energy, we're feeding them. There's been times where I did that, and I was exhausted after. I'm living proof that it's a real thing. So you do the best you can, all right? If we go back, if we, play some games and don't block them all the way, it's okay. It's part of our healing. Beating ourselves up, we're not gonna get anywhere if we do that. If we can be gentle with ourselves and love ourselves bravely, that's the way we heal. So, sometimes we can't do no contact, right? If we have a child that we share with a narcissist, you can't just go no contact, it's impossible. So then we do something called modified contact. That's where you set your boundaries and you protect yourself from any, abuse. Narcissists can really play with us during that time if we're having to communicate. And they will what do you call that? Pull out all the stops and try to toy with us through that. So there are apps out there that we can use, even if you're, like I said before, if you have a business that you're dissolving with a narcissistic partner, you can refuse to have direct contact with them. You can refuse to have undocumented contact with them because you're not willing to put yourself in that position. You can have them email you instead of call you, because you're going to block them anyway, hopefully. So then you are in control and you get to decide when you check that email or when you look at that text. Then you maintain your autonomy. Support is incredibly important. So a lot of us, when we're in the narcissistic relationship, we isolate. That's part of the abuse. They do what they can to isolate us from our support systems. So we may have pissed some people off. We may have just pulled away from people. We may have pulled away from everybody. It doesn't matter. Those people who are your people will be there when you reach out. So I encourage you to reach out. Now, one thing that I just found out recently as I was working with Help of Door County, narcissistic abuse is considered domestic abuse. Who knew that? You guys knew that? Okay. I did not know that. I just found that out a few weeks ago. And it was a whole other level of validation for what I went through. So if you need support, go to your local domestic abuse shelter or, organization, shelter if you need it. Reach out. Take care of yourself. This is literally, now I'm not going to say, well, maybe not the hardest. This might have been the hardest thing I ever had to do, short of giving birth and losing somebody I love. But pulling myself out of the chemical cocktail in my brain that told me I was craving the narcissist. I was not craving the narcissist. I was craving the chemicals in my brain from the abuse cycle, the ups and the downs. So breaking out of that, we need support. You're not weak if you reach out. Not at all. All right, abuse tactics. I want to say something too. So we're going to do some demonstrations of boundaries in a minute, and a lot of them are about narcissistic abuse with an intimate partner. But narcissistic abuse can happen with our parents. That can be very traumatic as children when we are abused in that way by our parents. I'm hearing more and more people who are having narcissistic children. And what do you do when it's your child? How easy is it to go no contact when your child is going through it? And often I see with that, it's not typically a diagnosis, but there's also co-occurring mental illness that can go with that, which makes it really hard. So it can happen with anybody. Anybody can be a narcissist. Are the narcissists bad people? It depends who you ask and where they are in their healing. Somebody who just gets out of narcissistic abuse is destroyed. They can be destroyed. Their energy is sapped down to nothing. We're not just picking up the pieces of our life like a normal relationship. We're actually picking up the pieces of our self, of our shattered self. It's almost like we're erased when we're with the narcissist. They do what they can little by little by little to get us to change, to be who they want us to be. So somebody that's just getting out of that relationship, they're probably going to say the narcissist is an evil choice word, whatever word you want to install in there. I sure did. And however you feel about the narcissist is right. Again, it is your experience. It's your healing journey. Where I am now, years out, after having done quite a bit of work around all this, most days, not all days, most days, I can see the narcissist as coming from the same source as me, another human, connected. I keep my heart open as best as I can to everybody. That's why I will not trash narcissists. But I will call out their horrible behavior. I will call out their asinine behavior that makes us believe wrong things about ourselves. Do I think they're bad? No, I don't think they're bad right at the core. I think they're dangerous, and I keep ironclad boundaries with narcissists that have been in my life. But I feel like eventually, hopefully we get to a place where we can, when we're focused here and we're connected there, that we can focus on us more. And then that other stuff kind of goes away. That's just not where our focus is anymore. Okay, abuse tactics. All right, so I'm only going to talk about 3 of them tonight, but there's more than that. So let's start with gaslighting. So the word gaslighting comes from, I don't know what year this is, I forgot to look it up, but it comes from an old movie called Gaslighting, where the husband tries to convince his wife she's going crazy each day, and I have not even actually seen it, so if I'm saying something wrong, let me know. But each day he turns down the lights a little more, and a little more and a little more. And pretty soon it's really dark in the house. And she's like, what's going on? There's something going on. He's like, no. What is your problem? There's nothing wrong. The lights are fine. So that's where the name comes from. And in an intimate relationship, gaslighting might sound like, what are you doing? We have to leave in 10 minutes. What do you mean we have to leave? Where are we going? I told you this morning we have a big party to go to with all our friends. No, you didn't. Yeah, I did. Is your anxiety kicking up again? Are you menopausal? Is it your period? Like that, I think some of you can probably relate to those. I think that was the hardest page for me to write in this book, was the page about gaslighting. Because I think we know, once we can see it, how triggering it can be to realize what was put on us, let's say. All right, triangulation. This, for me personally, I don't know how it is for everybody else, was probably the most destructive in my past relationship, because I have big time abandonment issues from all the way from childhood. I think many of us who have been susceptible to narcissistic abuse do have past trauma. And maybe not even just PTSD from past trauma, but complex PTSD from past trauma. That's the type of PTSD where we couldn't get away from it. As children, we couldn't get away from what was happening around us. So anyway, okay, so triangulation. So triangulation happens when our narcissistic partner, it can happen with a parent also, our narcissistic partner puts another person between us and them. And it's designed to reduce us. It often happens when we are feeling really good about ourselves, really strong. Maybe we just got a promotion at work and our significant other takes us out for dinner and spends the whole night. We thought we were going to be praised. We thought we were going to be celebrating. He spends the whole night flirting with the waitress. That's just one snapshot. I think as it goes, it just, for me, that's the one that broke me. It can also happen with a narcissistic parent. Oftentimes there's a golden child and then everybody else. And they will pick which person is the golden child, and then the rest pay a price. They use each other against each other. So your family members who you're supposed to trust and love, that's your foundation, that's your support system, you're all fighting for the attention of the narcissist. So all of a sudden, it's competition. You have nobody devoted to you, dedicated to you. It's this sick triangulation that's happening, that can happen. And then there's stonewalling. I am not talking about this again. You brought this up last week. You need to go deal with your issues. We are not talking about it, right? You want to call them on their behavior, on their inappropriate behavior. This is what you can get in return. Sometimes, I personally have never been, well, yes, I have been through this, but with a parent, the silent treatment. Horrific, the silent treatment. It can happen for a day, a week, a month. Maybe they even disappear for that time and you don't even know where they've been. Waiting by the phone, white-knuckling the phone, wondering where they are they okay, what's going on? So that's another really destructive one. Why do we stay? So how many people have ever felt ashamed or beat up on themselves for staying? We stay because it's an addiction in our brain. We stay because they are masters of manipulation and they know what we need, they know our weak points, and they tell us that they will fill them. Our holes, they will fill them. So that's why we stay. So if you're ever tempted to beat up on yourself for doing that, know that there are many other people who have done the same thing, And it's really, really hard to break out of it. But it's doable, and it's worth it every step of the way. All right. I am going to call up my friend, Jen Staus, who is a fellow counselor, and she is going to help me act out some boundary demonstrations, just to mix it up a little bit. Okay, so, all right, I'm going to share this, guys.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so the first, we're going to do 5 different demonstrations. The first 4 are sort of aimed at an intimate relationship with the narcissist. And just for clarity's sake, we're going to say that the victim is a female and the narcissist is a male. But make no mistake, there are female narcissists out there too that do just as much damage or more than males. So, but just for clarity, we're doing it this way. All right. Okay. I want you to pay attention to her body language in this one. Those of us that have been through narcissistic abuse, I'm gonna bet you're gonna recognize some things. All right. I can't believe you flirted with her in front of me the whole night. I was standing there and like I didn't even exist.
Here we go again. I did not flirt with her. She flirted with me. Your jealousy is going to ruin us.
Okay, so now we're gonna like step out of the scenario for a minute. All right, before recovery, here's what might have happened inside of me. Oh my gosh, okay, I'm jealous. I gotta work on this. I feel really, I don't know what to do. I feel powerless. I feel horrible. I guess it's me. I gotta try harder. I probably should lose some weight or something to be more attractive. It's probably my fault. All right, so do it again. Oh yeah, I have to start first. I can't believe you flirted with her all night in front of me. That was really rude.
I did not flirt with her. She flirted with me. Your jealousy is going to ruin us.
Actually, okay, this is after some recovery. Hopefully you're not still with the narcissist, but it did happen to me that I did go back and I had a chance to do this. So this is not about my jealousy. This is about your inappropriate behavior. And I don't have any interest in being with somebody that cannot set boundaries with other people, respectful boundaries. So if this is how you need to be, I respect that. But I need to end us then. Okay, so 2 different perspectives. All right. Can you guys hear us? Well, but we have video. Okay. Okay. Yes.
You're wearing that to the party?
Okay, before recovery. Oh, I feel ashamed. Oh my gosh. That feeling, you know how that creeps up our body? I feel so ashamed. I better change. I better change who I am and what I do because apparently this isn't okay. So you run and you change clothes, right? Okay.
You're wearing that to the party?
Actually, yes. I am wearing this to the party, and if this doesn't work for you, I understand. I'm happy to stay home if you want to go, but I feel really good about what I look like tonight. Another perspective. Yes. Okay.
I need you to do this list of 300 crazy, bizarre sexual things to meet my needs, or I'll have to leave you. I need you to do this list of 300 crazy, bizarre sexual things to meet my needs, or I'll have to leave you.
So, before recovery, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? I am so ashamed of what is being asked of me. I don't want to do this, but he's the best thing I ever had. I cannot give this up. So I have a war within me going on over and over, constantly making me sick inside. Okay, try again.
I need you to do this list of 300 crazy, bizarre sexual things to meet my needs, or I'll have to leave you.
Okay, so here's the thing. I will not jeopardize my physical, mental, or emotional health what I want is a monogamous relationship with somebody who I feel safe with and I can be vulnerable with, and I'm not willing to sacrifice myself for that. So if that doesn't work for you, I get it. I gotta call this then. That's not gonna work. Okay.
You gained some weight, and this is not what I signed up for when I married you.
Oh my gosh, how much shame did I feel, right? Horrible. Felt horrible about myself. And I tell you, all the energy I put into trying to improve myself, I could probably, I don't know, build a new pyramid or become president or something, you know? So much. Okay. Yep. I know, I got a quick look too.
You gained weight. This is not what I signed up for when I married you.
Okay, well, I have been under more pressure than I've ever been under in my entire life with you, and I'm not willing to, I'm okay with me. I just decided this morning that I am gonna just accept myself where I am. So if you need somebody who's a size 8, I clearly am not your girl. So you do what you need to do to take care of you. Okay. Now, this one probably will get some chuckles too, and maybe we can relate to it. Oh yeah, that's good. Oh yeah, okay. Gotta put the glasses on for this one. Please don't just pop over to my house. I'd appreciate it if you let me know you were coming first.
I'm your mother, and I gave you life. I can pop over whenever I like.
Okay, before recovery, I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I feel powerless. I'm afraid of abandonment. I depend on my mom to watch my kids. I depend on my mom to help me out financially. I'm powerless. What do I do here? Okay, let's do it again. Oh yeah, okay. Please don't just pop over. This is my house, and I would appreciate it if you respected that.
I'm your mother. I gave you life. I can pop over whenever I'd like.
No, that really doesn't work for me. This is my house, and I'm just asking you to have some consideration for that fact. So just to let you know, here's the boundary, because I can't control what she's gonna do clearly, but I can control what I'm gonna do. So the next time that happens, I just need you to know that I'm not gonna be answering the door.
Good thing I have a key.
Note to self, change the locks. Clearly, I'm not going to have that conversation with her. All right, let's give Jen a hand. Thank you, Jen. Okay. All right, now we're going to start to talk about my book. So, Brave Love 365. What makes this book special? The first thing is, it's a daily book. I did some research when I started writing it. There was not another daily book out there for survivors of narcissistic abuse. And we need daily support. We need validation. I can't even imagine how much easier my recovery might have been if I at least had somebody that understood. Nobody that was close to me except for my therapist understood what was going on. So in this book, I don't use any gender pronouns. For other people, I say they and them, because we know narcissists can be men or women. For us, I say we and us. So anybody, no matter how they identify, no matter what type of relationship they're in, it can fit anybody. And when I say we and us, I hope it brings the feeling that there is a collective of people that are healing from narcissistic abuse. You're not alone. We're all in this together. Energetically, we're all doing it. We're all pulling ourselves out, which creates momentum for other people to do the same. This book houses 33 years of my recovery from many, many things. I started recovery when I was 21 years old. I guess I just gave my age away. Oh well. But there's a lot in this book. And with that, you can go as deep as you want with it, or you can stay on the surface. Again, it's not wrong if you read this book all the way through in a week. It's your recovery. You get to do it how it works for you. But you can come back to it also year after year, and you can see how much you've changed in a year. You can see what you still have to work on. So you can go as deep as you need. Also, there are some topics that I covered more in depth in sort of a little series. One of them is codependency, which I don't think I can say every narcissistic abuse survivor is codependent, but it sure plays a role for a lot of people. Another is highly sensitive people and empaths. Highly sensitive empaths. Narcissistic abuse is, I see some of you nodding your heads. You know, it's too much. It's just too much for our systems. And when we're highly sensitive, it's even worse. So there's information in here about that, and it normalizes who you are. When I started researching for this book was when I realized, oh my gosh, I'm highly sensitive. I'm not wrong. I'm not weird. There's a whole bunch of us out there, and it's a thing. It's not just oh, you're so sensitive. No, it's a thing. Our nervous systems function differently. So that's in there too. And then we're all familiar probably with the concept of an inner child. All right. I'm asking you to take a bit of a different approach on it, and I'm asking you to work with your inner children. So when we're little, we have traumas. We can have traumas that happen to us. If we don't have a supportive person to help us work through that and process it and not hold it all by ourselves, we can get stuck at that age. So that part of us, that inner child, does not grow up into our developing system of self. It stays stuck. So you can have a 4-year-old who learned how to keep herself safe or himself safe by paying attention to everything around them, watching the nuances of our parents' behavior. Or I could walk in the back door, literally when I got home from school, I could open it a crack and I knew whether my parents were drinking or not because I felt the change in energy. So we could have a little one that knows all that, and we can tune into that. Once we start working with them and help them heal, we can use those as gifts. And then when we meet somebody new, we work with that inner 4-year-old and we go, ooh, how does she feel? Ooh, no, this is not good. Even though it looks great on the surface, probably not good. We might have a really hurt teenager who went through something that's raising holy hell in our lives. And see, I don't know, have you ever had that where you're like talking to somebody or you're standing up in front of people talking and it's almost like you get hijacked. You don't know what happens, but all of a sudden your mood changes and you're just not quite yourself. Sometimes our inner children can kind of hijack us and they're trying to be heard. So anyway, I could go on for hours with that. But so there's one entry each month to help us focus on our inner children and hopefully develop a relationship with them and work with them. Who is this book for? So like I said before, this book is for anybody who's in a narcissistic relationship, whether it was written in the context of an intimate relationship, but it can be for people that had narcissistic parents, bosses, whatever. So it can be for people that are in a narcissistic relationship, if they're willing to read it. They may not leave, but it can plant seeds so that the next time their spouse or whoever does another gaslighting maneuver, they're like, oh, that's gaslighting. Okay, so slowly becoming aware. It's great for people that are out of the abuse and are ready to heal. You know, that's who I aimed at when I wrote the book, but it's for other people. It's for people that support people that are going through narcissistic abuse. it can be really confusing sometimes. Everything was wonderful. It looked great. You guys looked like you were so in love. What do you mean it was that bad? Or it can be confusing why we stay. So this kind of helps our support people understand why. This, I'm finding, I didn't write it with this in mind, but it seems like it's a great book for professionals. 2 of my advanced readers that read this book and reviewed it for me before it published are educators. Their whole lives they were educators. And they worked with the at-risk populations. And they said that it helped them understand who these kids were dealing with at home and who they had to deal with from time to time and what these kids were going through. There's counselors out there that, well-meaning counselors that just don't understand narcissistic abuse. And sometimes people can get diagnosed as having depression or anxiety. I'll be honest, when I was in my internship, I sat with somebody, I'm looking at Marcia because she was my supervisor, and I remember being with a client and thinking, wow, she just can't get over this person. That's why, because there's a trauma bond in our brains. So there's so much information in here for professionals. I even dropped a brochure off about it at the police station. Can you imagine in court if our court professionals knew the dynamics of narcissistic abuse? Perhaps we could create a safer experience for both parties. So, okay, how do you use this book? Well, you can start with whatever date it is and go from there. If you are just newly out of narcissistic abuse or not, and you're still feeling really raw, there's something for everyone on every page. But if that's you, I would suggest starting on January 1st at the beginning, no matter what the date is, because there's a lot of nurturing stuff, there's a lot of information in the beginning, so that might be a good place to start. I worked really hard on the index because I'm kind of a bookie, so there's all kinds of categories in the index. You can look up a topic that seems to fit for you that day. This book can also be used to hone your intuition. This book, a lot of this book is about connecting with your source. I know that some people don't identify with the word God. That can even be triggering for some people. So I chose a word source. But tuning in to see, okay, I'm gonna, putting your intention into the book. This is what I need to know today. What do I do? So you open the page and you get the message. So that's another function that this book can have. So this book on the surface is about narcissistic abuse, but what it's really about, you guys, is brave love. It's about the type of love that makes us no longer willing to apologize for ourselves or shrink to make somebody else comfortable. That's what this book is about. Because every one of you in this room, every single one of you, is an amazing human. And if anybody in your lives have told you otherwise, it was incorrect information. All right, so I'm going to read to you one page from this book, just as a reference point to send you home with. September 8th, Inner Wisdom. As children, many of us were not encouraged to honor or rely on our own inner senses. Instead, we were taught to look outside of ourselves to those in authority. In a six-family system, our outer reality and authority figures were often in direct opposition to our inner wisdom. We abandoned our knowing to please our caregivers and avoid abuse, abandonment, and rejection. We were, however, incredibly wise beings, still strongly connected to our inner essence and to Source. Over the years, the pattern of distrusting ourselves and deferring to outer authorities for our answers grew. But as we begin to connect with ourselves, we come to understand that no one outside of us, nobody, knows what's best for us. Obviously, when we're children, we need guidance, but as adults, well, even children. I mean, children need help hearing their answers sometimes. They need help, they need our help with that. Supportive people can share thoughts or ideas based on their experiences, which can give us valuable additional perspectives to consider, but they can't know our truth. Our inner wisdom resides deep within us, where we are directly connected to our source. When we're in harmony with this wise, dynamic energy, we can construct an inspired life that allows room for us to fully exist and which reflects our truth. Today, I will honor my own inner knowing and authority, allowing my incredibly intelligent wisdom to shine through me and my life like golden rays of sunshine. So, those of you who are going to read this book, if you like what you read, I would so appreciate if you would leave a review on Amazon for me. This is what lets other people know that this is a good tool for them. So just wanted to say that. Upcoming work that I have. So I have another book, a first draft of another book written. It's a novel, and its purpose is also to bring awareness of narcissistic abuse, but in a more mainstream way. It's got some romance, some intrigue, some beach scenes, things like that. So I'm hoping that that will come out about the same time this one did next year, about September of next year. And I'm also in the process of writing an online course for survivors. And I'm hoping to get that done by February or March. And it's interesting because it's just, I work with, that's all I can tell you. Me and God, we're writing this course, and it kind of comes as it comes, and there's going to be a meditation aspect to it, different meditations that will have different, I guess I don't want to say too much, but I think it's going to be good. So I'll keep you guys posted. You can follow me on Facebook or Instagram. I'm author Erika Nelson on there. All right, before we do question and answer, I'm gonna read you a poem which sort of repeats what I told you before, that you're all magnificent beings. All right, Our Greatest Fear. This is by Marianne Williamson. It's our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, or fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure about you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Now, I want to say this with a caveat. We don't get here till we get here. You know, it's a process, and if you don't see yourself right now as brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous, that's okay. But some part of you in there holds that energy, and it's just waiting, patiently waiting for whenever you get there. So, okay, question and answer time. Do we have any in the basket?
No.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions? Yes.
What would you define as a narcissist?
Okay, a narcissist with narcissistic personality disorder. Okay, I knew you were going to ask me this, and I forgot that sheet. But there are 5 out of 8 criteria that they must have to be diagnosed by a psychologist or counselor or whatever. I'm going to try. You guys help me out if I'm missing any. But they lack empathy. They do not possess empathy. They have feelings of grandiosity, that they're better than everyone else. They associate with institutions that are better than other ones. Can anyone help me? They do. They can be pathological liars. You know what I'll do is I will put this on my social media. I'll put the criteria on for you so that you can see it there. And yeah, because I just can't come up with it right now, but there's like at least 5 of those criteria that they have to be considered a narcissist. Now again, is it valuable? I don't know, because how many narcissists don't even go get diagnosed, and as we talked about before, a narcissist can break somebody apart with one of those. So it's another perspective, let's say. Does that answer your question? Okay. All right. Any other questions? Yes.
So isn't there, I've heard a lot about covert narcissism. Isn't there a difference? Like with covert narcissism, I've heard a lot that they're more with, like, they're very envious, very passive aggressive. They tend to hold grudges with people, do a lot of the silent treatment, lack of empathy, more withdrawn, seek validation. They also project their inadequacies on you.
Right. Covert narcissists can be incredibly damaging. I mean, there's different types of narcissists. So one of the types of narcissists is the grandiose narcissist. That's the one we all see. We know. You know, they're flying around with their hot cars and they're got the women hanging off of them or the men hanging, you know, whatever. You can tell those. There's altruistic narcissists. They do good, they do good, they do good. They're doing good to feel better about themselves. They're doing good to get energy from other people as they're doing these great things. Those can be kind of hard to pick out too. But a covert narcissist is, they're sort of seething inside. See, a narcissism can happen in a few different ways. It can happen by being the golden child. It can happen where because when we're treated as a golden child, our needs really aren't being met. We're still being neglected because sometimes we fall down, but we can't because we gotta maintain that image, you know. Sometimes it can be from abuse and neglect. It can be from trauma and injury when they were younger, and whatever the reason, there could even be a genetic link, but whatever the reason, they feel horrible inside about themselves. I guess I can't say that for every single one of them, but I think most do. And I've often said, I'd rather be me than be the narcissist because I can heal. They have enduring personality traits that hurt the people around them. And okay, I just totally lost my train of thought. So, covert, thank you. So covert narcissists feel horribly miserable inside from what I have observed. I've worked with narcissists in therapy. I've worked with victims in therapy. I've obviously had my own personal experiences. And I think that, truthfully, they're in a lot of pain inside. But what they do, and they also believe that who they are is not enough to get their needs met. So they wall off who they really are. They wall off their connection to their heart, that part that lives us. That's why they have to go around and extract energy from other people, because they can't manufacture their own. They're not connected. They've shut it off. So a covert narcissist a lot of times can be seething inside, and unfortunately it comes out on us. So, yes.
Can any narcissist ever really be healed? I mean, I think you can bring them to the point where they understand their issues, but can they ever really be healed?
There's no cure for narcissism. I actually know of a person who is in therapy for narcissism, and they worked hard, but narcissists can only function to a certain degree, for a certain level, because of that. Now, that's one person, all right? If I had heard that back when, I would have said, oh, there's hope, maybe he can get help. No. the outcome of therapy, they use a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy, which is dealing with the narcissist's thoughts. And basically they try to help them treat the people around them less bad. So, it's a lot of working with perspective taking, trying to get them to understand how the other person might feel. So it isn't native to them, what they're learning. They're trying to learn a new skill, those that do. But as we talked about before, that is the absolute exception to the rule. But there are places that work with just narcissists, absolutely. So, yeah.
Is there any research into what causes that kind of behavior? Or is it chemical imbalance like some other things? Or do you have any research into that?
There's nothing that says this is what causes it. They have correlations that it could be from, there could be a genetic link. It could be from what they saw their parents doing. If one parent was a narcissist, they learned it that way. It could be, like we talked about before, from not getting our needs met, from being wounded, neglected, abused. We hurt so much, it can come from that. But yeah, I don't know that there's any studies out there that say this is what caused it. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming out tonight. It was really a gift having every one of you here. And I'm around after if anybody has any thoughts or anything. But otherwise, thank you, thank you, thank you.